Good morning. I am going to cover 1.3C, Solving and Graphing Intersection Inequalities. Today is September 10th, and we are going to answer the essential question, how do I graph intersection inequalities? So a compound inequality is when the solutions lie between two quantities. So far, what you've solved are non-ending intervals. So on the previous assignments, you've gotten an answer like, for example, x is greater than 4, meaning all of the answers are greater than 4. However, the first day, 1.3a, we graphed inequalities where we had a beginning and an end, and the solutions lied in between. For example, here where it says x is greater than 1, less than 3, okay? We have a beginning and we have an end, and the solutions are going to lie in between. When two inequalities are joined by the word and, both statements must be true at the same time. So let's look at an example, okay? So in our example, we have negative 3x is greater than negative 6, less than 18. So we would interpret this as negative 3x is greater than negative 6 and negative 3x is less than 18. And we're able to take that inequality and solve it separately. So you see in this example, you're going to see two inequality symbols. You can see one here, and you can see one here. Okay. So we're going to take them and solve them separately. Here's our first one. Here's our second one. All right, so let's do that. So first start with negative 3x is greater than negative 6. So just solve it. So we're going to divide by negative 3, both sides. Remember the golden rule of inequalities. When you divide or multiply by a negative, you're going to flip your inequality symbol. This is going to turn into 2, this x. So x is less than 2. Now, if I wanted to write it the other way around, I could. I could write x on the left and 2 on the right. Just make sure that you don't change the direction of your inequality sign. The little point is still facing the x, okay? That's saying the same thing. Then let's solve the other side. Negative 3x is less than 18. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. Again, remembering the golden rule of inequalities. And we get x is greater than negative 6. Okay, because a positive divided by a negative is going to give me a negative. And in the first example, I had a negative divided by a negative, which gave me a positive. All right. Wonderful. So let's put this in interval notation. Let's put this in interval notation, meaning I'm going to look for the least to the greatest. So if x is greater than negative 6 and less than 2, then I know that negative 6 is the least, 2 is the greatest, okay? Neither one of them have an equal sign underneath that inequality symbol, so I'm going to use parentheses on both sides. Okay. So remember, when you graph x is less than 2, you're going to go to the 2, you're going to use an open circle, and you can draw your arrow down. When x is greater than negative 6, you're going to use an open circle, and then you're going to draw your arrow towards the positive infinity. But when you have a compound inequality, the solution is going to be where those two graphs overlap. okay? So let's now write the inequality. So I'm going to remember, you're going to put x in the middle, okay? -6 is going to be here. 2 is going to be here. Now, make sure that you have your signs in the right direction, because the alligator is eating the x here. It needs to eat the x here, okay? Inequality symbol is eating the x. Make sure it's still eating the x here. X is greater than -6. And then x is less than 2. Now, when we go to graph this, both of them are going to have open circles. You're going to have an open circle here on the -6, open circle here on the 2. Draw a line in between. That's where your graphs overlap. All right, so let's do some more examples. Let's start with 9x is less than 54, greater than 18. So here is our first one. Here is our second one, okay? So let's solve them. 54 is greater than 9x. 9x is greater than 18. So we're simply going to divide each side by 9. We get 6. These cancel. 6 is greater than, x is less than 6, or 6 is greater than x. We're going to divide by 9, both sides here, and we get x is greater than 2. Wonderful. So let's put it in inequality notation and interval notation. So inequality, you're going to use your inequality signs. I'm going to put my x in the middle. X is greater than 2. X is less than 6. So I'm going to put my 2 here. I'm going to put my 6 here. Okay? Make sure that you keep them facing the same direction. The little point right here is facing the x. Again, the little point is facing the x there. Alligator is eating the x. Alligator is eating the x. Okay. Interval notation, remember, you're going to write it from left to right, smallest to greatest. I don't have an equal sign under either of my inequality symbols, so I'm going to write my 2, then my 6. Then, again, open circles, draw my line in between. Okay. So, for example number 2, they've already split them for you, okay? So, you know that you don't have to split these two up. There's only one inequality symbol here. So when they write it that way for you, where they give you the and in between, you already have them ready to solve. So let's do that. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. We get -x is greater than or equal to -9. Now, we're not solving for -x. We're solving for x. So we still need to divide both sides by -1. Remember, because we did that, we must flip our inequality symbol, and we get x is less than or equal to 9. Now, let's do the second one. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. We get 10x is greater than -40. We're going to divide each side by 10. We get x is greater than -4. All right, great. So x is greater than -4. X is less than 9. So let's write it in our inequality notation. So -4 is going to be the bottom because x is greater. When x is less, it's going to end up on the right. You're going to put your x in the middle. All right, so now write your inequality symbols, but make sure you don't flip them around, okay? The little part is facing the x on this one, so you want to make sure it stays that way, okay? The little part is facing the -4. The alligator is eating the x. You want to make sure it stays that way. All right, so interval notation. You know that you have your -4 on the left. You have your 9 on the right. Now, Also remember, you have that equal sign right there in between the x and the 9. So you want to make sure you use brackets. All right? So when you go to put your circle on the 9, it's going to be filled because that's what goes with brackets. That's what goes with that less than and equal to inequality symbol. You're going to put an open circle on the -4, and then you can connect them together. All right, so example number 3. All right, so now there's a lot more numbers than the first one, but keep in mind, you just want to copy to, whoops, let's try that one more time. All right, let's try that. So anything to the left of that second inequality, that's your first one. Okay, that's your first one. 21 less than or equal to 3x plus 9. Okay, that is your first inequality you're going to solve. Same goes for the other side. So anything, try that again. This little thing is temperamental. Anything, try it again. Come on, let me do it. There we go. Anything to the right of that inequality symbol, that's your second one. So you're going to have 3x plus 9 is less than or equal to 33. All right, wonderful. And I think it erased my little circle, so I'm going to put that back. All right, so there's my first one, there's my second one. All right, so let's solve them. I'm going to subtract 9, subtract 9. All right. So then I'm going to divide by 3, both sides, and I'm going to come up with 4 is less than or equal to x. So x is greater than or equal to 4. All right, let's do the next side. I'm going to subtract 9. Subtract 9 from both sides. 24, these cancel. 3x is less than or equal to 24. Divide both sides by 3. And you get x is less than or equal to 8. All right, wonderful. So again, x is greater than or equal to 4. So that is going to be my left side. I'm going to rewrite this so I have a little bit more room. X is less than or equal to 8. X is less than or equal to 8. So I'm going to have my 4 right there. Then I'm going to have my 8. I'm going to put my x in between. Remember, inequality notation, you have your inequality symbols. Then just make sure that they're still in the same direction, okay? All right, interval notation. I have 2 that have the equal sign underneath. So I'm going to use brackets for both. Write my 4 and my 8. Close circles on both of them. All right, wonderful. Next, I am going to split up this inequality. So my first one will be anything to the left of the second inequality symbol. My second one will be anything to the right of the first inequality symbol. All right, so let's split those up. We have negative 30 is less than or equal to negative 2x minus 10. And then we have negative 2x minus 10 is less than 26. And I'm going to write that one. I'm going to write that one down here. Right here. Negative 2x minus 10 is less than negative 26. All right, wonderful. Let's solve these. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. We get negative 20 is less than or equal to negative 2x. We're going to divide both sides by negative 2. Now remember, when we divide or multiply by a negative, we must flip our inequality symbol. We're going to get 10. and x, okay? Then we're going to solve down here. Again, we're going to add 10 to both sides. Negative 2x is less than negative 16. We're going to divide by negative 2. We're going to remember we've got to flip our inequality symbol, x, and we get 8. So we get x is less than or equal to 10. Oops, got to flip it. Got to flip it. X is greater than 8. All right, so if x is greater than 8, that's my lower number. X is less than 10, it's here. I'm going to put my x in the middle. Then make sure that you point your arrows in the right direction. So you see here, the little point is on the x, and the alligator's eating the 10. So we want to make sure it stays that way. All right, wonderful. The little point is on the 8. The alligator's eating the x. So we want to make sure it stays that way. So x is greater than 8. X is less than or equal to 10. Now, interval notation. We're going to use parentheses on this side with the 8, and we're going to use a bracket on this side with the 10 because we have that equal sign. And we're going to fill in our circle here. We're not going to fill in our circle here, okay, because parentheses has an open circle, bracket has a filled circle, and I'm going to draw my line in between. All right, so get busy today. I'm going to get this video downloaded. For some reason, there was a technical error with the one that you had today, but keep working, and I will see you all tomorrow.